America, we are back, baby. Welcome to another episode of America Unfiltered with James Pascalides. We got a great show for you tonight, folks. I do want to go right into our topics today. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. We're going to be talking about Ghislaine Maxwell. We're going to talk about Trump's immigration policy. We're going to be talking about new developments in the Andrew Tate, Tristan Tate case. I mean, there's a lot of crazy things happening. We still see Charlie Kirk in the middle about the Epstein stuff. We saw a crazy interview yesterday from Trump and Pam Bondi regarding the Epstein files. They were discussing the Texas flooding, which I do want to say my heart goes out to all the people who have lost their lives, lost family members, friends. I'm praying for your safety in Texas. I pray that we're able to have a quick resolution to this. But yeah, I mean, a lot of weird stuff has been going on in the media since these Epstein, I don't even want to say since the Epstein files came out, since the Epstein no files came out, since they said that we're not getting any information. And it kind of brings us into our first topic of the day. I really want to start a new movement. You know, there was the Free Britney movement going on to free her from her conservatorship that was going on. We've all seen how that's worked out. Not too well. But I want to start a new movement. I want to start the movement to free Ghislaine Maxwell. You know, it's not really going to be a popular opinion at first. You know, it's definitely one of those out there things, but why is she in jail? Who was she trafficking to? What was she even doing that was wrong? And yeah, you can make the argument that she was a rapist or things like that. And yes, those things are wrong, but your average female rapist spends like 3 to 5 years in jail. So what is she, doing a 20-year sentence for? Why is she in jail if there's no trafficking list? What was the point of Exhibit 52 in her case, which was the little black book that had thousands of names of high-profile billionaires, tech executives, media executives, academia executives? It had politicians. It had Hollywood elites. So what was the point of all that? What's the point of Ghislaine rotting for the next 17 more years in a jail cell? She's 3 years into a 20-year sentence if she's not really guilty of anything. You know, I for years peddled the lies and conspiracy theories that Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein were running a international sex ring where they were supplying young girls to high-profile elites. We talked about this yesterday. I gave my apologies to Sir King Jeffrey Epstein about this. You know, we got to apologize for these things. We're obviously very wrong. We obviously are so stupid and so ignorant, according to Pam Bondi and Trump and Dan Bongino and Kash Patel. We apparently are just so dumb to think that Exhibit 52 meant anything in Ghislaine's case. We're so dumb to think that Ghislaine's even guilty or Jeffrey was guilty in any way. You know, they want to just paint this picture as if they're innocent, but you know, if they're not going to provide any evidence that there's a client list, if they're not going to provide any information to the American people on who they were trafficking to, and they're pretty much just going to say that they were just child porn deviants and essentially rapists, why not just give them the rapist sentence? Why aren't we lowering Ghislaine's sentence to, so she's out in the next 2 years? Like I said, most female rapists spend 3 to 5 years in jail, and Ghislaine has been in for 3 years already. She's doing her Pilates every day. Seems like a really hard time in there. It seems like she's really, really, really struggling in jail. You know, I couldn't imagine the pain of having to play tennis and do Pilates and write books and just all the struggles Ghislaine is currently going through in jail. It's so tragic. It's a Greek tragedy. I feel bad for her. I almost want to donate to her cause now, but I can't donate to her cause. So what I am doing is I'm starting this movement. I'm starting the Free Ghislaine Maxwell movement. We'll meet every Tuesday under the Brooklyn Bridge. We will try and find a way to get her out of jail. We'll find a way to show the government that if they're not going to hold anyone accountable for this, that why are they holding her accountable for it? Why is she the only person to rot in prison when they can't even tell us why she's in prison? They're saying she's in prison for sex trafficking, but who is she trafficking to? I mean, it just does not make sense. All this is so corrupt. It's just, it's just so sad. I mean, I remember watching Trump in 2015, 2016, running for president, announcing that he was getting into politics. I remember the pushback. And most of the pushback came because Trump said, I'm going to drain the swamp. I am going to dismantle the deep state. I'm going to put the power back in the American people's hands. But Trump just became the deep state. Trump just became the very thing he sought to destroy. And you see a lot of the MAGA supporters falling in line with this, which is really sad. As someone who heavily aligned with the Make America Great Again movement and someone who loved Donald Trump for a very long time, it's like Godfather 2. It's like, we're seeing the fall of Corleone. We're seeing the fall of Donald Trump in real time. We watched Donald Trump go from, wanting to dismantle the deep state, wanting to drain the swamp, wanting to rid DC of all the bureaucrats, all the waste, fraud, and abuse, the NGOs, and all the people protecting pedophiles, protecting the elites, keeping the JFK files a secret, protecting Israel over America. There's a lot of corruption happening and a lot of things Trump said he wanted to get rid of, but Trump has now just fallen in line with those things. Trump is now bombing Iran for Israel. Trump is now going to be not giving amnesty, but giving visas to all these illegals who broke into our country. Trump is protecting Epstein. Trump barely got any of Elon Musk Doge cuts through. He is now having a public fallout with Elon Musk. It's gotten so bad that even, mainstream conservatives like Candace Owens, and excuse my language here, but Candace Owens literally called Trump and Pam Bondi retarded on her show. And I have to agree that the comments she was referring to were, again, excuse my language, they were retarded. When I go over later in the show the things Pam Bondi and Donald Trump said in the press briefing, or not press briefing, in the Trump cabinet meeting yesterday, you'll understand just how delusional this has gotten and just how bad it's gotten, that now, after years and years of being promised that we're going to see the dismantling of the deep state and the draining of the swamp, and we're not going to see the corrupt three-letter agencies who we don't even know exist running the show, we see Trump now just falling in line to them, just bowing down to them. What's going on? It's a little bit confusing. I still, like I said, I have a hard time believing that Trump is behind a lot of this, and it's not people in his cabinet or people in his ear or threats to his life, but it's not off the table for me that Trump is involved in this. Like I said, it's just, it doesn't make sense. Why did Trump in an 8-year span just completely flip on everything? Does it have to do with the funding is one of my thoughts. We talked about this a lot, but in 2016 and 2020, Trump was mainly funded by small donors, people like you and me, just his constituents around the country, sending a few $100 here, $10 here, $1,000 here. And then Trump in 2024 took more political money than most candidates. I mean, Kamala spent a lot as well, but we're not talking about Kamala. We're talking about the fact that Trump took hundreds of millions from Elon. He took $100 million from Miriam Adelson. He took $100 million from other lobbying groups. So Trump took hundreds of millions of dollars from these people, and those things come with promises. We all know how lobbying in politics works. Lobbying is just legal bribery in politics. It's one of the most corrupt parts of it. We've talked about it a lot. But it's essentially led to, me being proven wrong, that I've been peddling these conspiracy theories for years about Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine, and now I just feel so bad that I have, that now I'm pushing for Ghislaine to be freed from prison. I think, like I said, she's just innocent, of course. It makes no sense to keep a innocent woman in jail, and maybe she's not fully innocent, maybe she was a rapist, but like I've talked about, female rapists only spend 3 to 5 years in jail, and she's already been there for 3. I think she's learned her lesson if that's all she did. We all know it's not all she did. It's just what they want us to believe, and I don't understand it. I don't understand why Trump is flipping on us. I want to get into everything today. Like I said, we got a lot to talk about. We got a good show for you tonight, folks. We have just a crazy time in the media and politics happening right now that I never thought I would see. I was just so heavily on the side of Trump is going to be the most transparent president. He's going to be the one to release the JFK files. He's going to release the MLK files. He is going to release the Epstein files. He'll release the 9/11 files. We have yet to see the 9/11 files. I haven't seen the MLK files. The JFK files were essentially a sham. They released 80,000 documents, and I didn't see Damona or the Jewish or Italian mafia mentioned almost once in them. There was like one document that mentioned the Italian mob, and that was it. But the main theories regarding the fact that the Jewish mob and the Italian mob did favors for Israel when JFK was pushing for inspections of the Damona project are the most legit. They have the most historical accuracy when it comes to the relationships between the figures leading up to JFK, the two-bullet theory, the fact that there wasn't just one shooter as well. It's a lot of different really weird things that we're just not getting the answers on. And then now this, the Epstein files, of course. We're seeing a complete shutdown. You know, they paraded around those binders around the White House with Epstein files phase 1. You know, they brought in 50 Republican, some Democratic and independent influencers into the White House. They brought them in there to parade around these binders that all in big red letters on the front said Epstein Files Phase 1 release, implying that we'd be seeing a Phase 2, maybe a Phase 3 through 5 or something. But no, that was it. That was all the information we got, and all that information was already publicly available. It was already publicly available if you just knew how to look up the Ghislaine Maxwell trial transcript. And I've read the Ghislaine Maxwell trial transcript, and that's why I'm so pissed off about this, because I read every word of that transcript. I know for a fact her and Epstein were guilty of trafficking to high-profile billionaires around the world. And the fact that we're being told that no, that they were essentially just rapists and child porn enthusiasts, and they were actually not raping anybody around the world. Like I said, it's led me to my overall stance now that I was just such a wrong shill pushing these conspiracy theories, and now we need to free Ghislaine Maxwell. You know, we need to make a huge push, like the Free Britney push, to get Ghislaine Maxwell out of jail. Because why are we letting this innocent woman, you know, she doesn't have ties to Mossad, she doesn't have ties to Israeli or U.S. intelligence, she was essentially just helping her boyfriend at the time get some extra hand jobs from some minors, nothing more than that. Obviously it's terrible, but it's not what we've been pushing for years. It's not what I've been, the conspiracy theories I've been saying for years, that Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine have been trafficking to high profile elites, Hollywood elites, political elites, financial, academia elites around the world. I mean, obviously that was just a bunch of conspiracy. I was just wrong. I'm just a fucking idiot. They're all correct. Yeah, I mean, it's just so painfully obvious that they were right now that Pam Bondi and Trump and Cash and Dan Bongino said that, there's no reason to question it. That why are we still talking about it even? He's just a creep. It's just weird we're even talking about it, according to them. It's crazy. It's delusional. But let's dive into Ghislaine's case a little bit. We'll talk about Trump and Pam Bondi, like I said. We'll talk about how Trump is just going against everything. We'll talk about Elon. We'll talk about Charlie Kirk. We'll talk about the illegals. Like I said, we got a lot to talk about. But when Ghislaine was arrested in 2020, she was convicted like a year later, 2021. She was sentenced for 20 years for sex trafficking, conspiracy, transporting minors, and perjury. She was never charged for anything else. If you read the transcripts, you can directly see that not only was she doing that, she was also involved sexually with a lot of these women. It wasn't her just transporting the women to these high-profile elites. She was also engaged sexually with a lot of them as well, whether they were into it or not. So she has been basically publicly identified as a rapist through the courts, but was never charged with that. But they did charge her with sex trafficking and transporting minors. And they did mention in her trial what was known as Exhibit 52. It was Ghislaine's Black Book. It was a 97-page contact list that was made from her manager, and it was essentially dubbed the Holy Grail of names in the Epstein case. Bill Clinton, Donald Trump, Alan Dershowitz, Prince Andrew, Ehud Barak, Bill Gates, Peter Soros, Michael Bloomberg, All these names, numbers, contact information were all in there. Also, allegedly, they haven't released this information to us, but it has been alleged that there has also been financial records that were recovered in that black book, that there were specific transactions and account numbers in that book too. So what does this mean? That there is a black book, 97-page contact list that has all these names in there, and that they're telling us that there's no trafficking. When you look at the names on the list, like I said, Bill Clinton, Donald Trump, Alan Dershowitz, Prince Andrew, Ehud Barak, Bill Gates, Peter Soros, Michael Bloomberg, and there's others, like I said, thousands of names. Those are some of the more prominent ones, but you can see there's a lot of political power and billions of dollars, if not global power as well, behind those names. They are not only able to influence the dollar's value, they're able to influence politics, they're able to influence wars, they're able to essentially flip the switch if a man lives or dies. If you don't think Bill Clinton's had people killed, if you don't think that Alan Dershowitz or Prince Andrew have had people killed, or possibly Bill Gates, that's just corrupt. These people are known to be very corrupt billionaires. They are known to do very corrupt things. And Bill Clinton and Hillary essentially ran Murder Inc. They were whacking anybody who didn't want to fall in line to all their corruptness. You saw it after Watergate. You saw one person in their cabinet kill themselves. We saw Virginia Roberts, after pleading that she wouldn't kill herself for years, kill herself after she got hit by a bus and she didn't die. And then while she was recovering said, "I still won't kill myself," because she knew it was an attempt to kill her, and then killed herself a week later. But no, the father, the mother, her whole family, the lawyer, her doctor, all saying that no, she most likely didn't kill herself wasn't enough. They just accepted that she killed herself. And same thing with Epstein. When they found him hanging in his cell by his bed sheets, the top coroner in the world who said that no, Epstein did not hang himself. The breaks in his neck are pretty clear that someone fucking killed him. That didn't matter either. That was just... We're just conspiracy theorists. Like I said, free Ghislaine Maxwell. We need to free... I'm going to get shirts printed for this next week because we need to free Ghislaine Maxwell because we're all just a bunch of dumbass conspiracy theorists and the government knows everything. And we're just wrong for thinking against them, of course. It's just fucking crazy. But yeah, so the Exhibit 52 kind of proved that there was a client list. It proved that there was a pattern of billionaires, high-profile elites in Hollywood, around the globe, in academia, being brought to this island, that there was blackmail being done. There's financial records to show that these people were sending Jeffrey Epstein millions, if not billions of dollars, that they were providing land to him, they were giving him apartments, they were giving him other pieces of real estate around the globe. He had also fake passports as well. So all this information that was released in the Ghislaine trial essentially went out the window when it came to Dan Cash and Pam Bondi's investigation. It seems like they didn't even read the transcripts. It seems like I know more about this than they do, and I'm just some fucking kid. So I just don't understand the incompetence in our government. I don't even want to say it's incompetence. It's clearly just a cover-up. It's clearly corruption. It's clearly them trying to signal to whoever it is that they're protecting that no matter what you do, we will protect you. That it can get as bad as you're shipping off thousands of little girls to an island to get raped, to a lot of them probably will never have meaningful lives again because they're living with the tragedy that they knew they were raped by Jeffrey Epstein and all these high-profile billionaires and elites that they have to see on TV, see on the media every fucking day. And we're just okay. Like, what delusional fantasy world are we living in that we're allowing the people in our government to signal that we're allowing them to signal that this is all okay and they're going to protect these people and that the Americans are just going to take it? At what point do the American people stand up and just say, okay, this is the system being broken? Like, we need to figure this out as Americans, that we need to come together as Americans and figure out a strategy behind this, because we can't just keep accepting, the government just kicking us in the balls and just saying it's okay every day. We can't just accept them lying to us right to our faces and accepting that it's okay. I mean, like I've talked about, we've watched Trump go from putting the power back in the hands of the American people, dismantling the deep state in the swamp, putting America first, deporting all illegals, and supporting American jobs and American workers, to now wanting to give HB1 visas to all the workers who broke into the country illegally if they're willing to work. He is now going back on the Epstein thing. He's essentially protecting Jeffrey Epstein in this, and he is just going against everything that he stood up for. We are watching in real time the fall of what I thought was one of the greatest presidents in American history. But no, he was at a point, one of the greatest candidates in American history. He had one of the greatest visions for American history. I could say that now, but I can't say that he's one of the greatest presidents because he has gone completely back on his agenda. And it's not even Trump specific. It doesn't matter whether it's Democrats or Republicans. They all say the same thing. They're going to lower spending. They're going to secure the border. They're going to make it safer for Americans. They're going to make the economy better. But realistically, they only focus on buzzwords like GDP and job growth, and they don't actually focus on where the job growth is coming from, if it's Americans or imported labor. They don't actually give a shit that they raised the debt ceiling year in and year out. I mean, we literally had Clinton raise it. We had Bush raise it. We had Obama raise it. We had Trump raise it. We had Biden raise it, and Trump raise it again. So every president does not have the interests of the American people in mind anymore, and we need to decide, when is it time to revolt? I'm not even just saying a civil war or a revolutionary war. I'm not saying we got to go to combat, but I am saying we do need to stand up to our government at some point. It is our right, not just our right, it is our duty to overthrow a corrupt government and to overthrow corrupt systems. And when you see, the largest systems, the largest people in our government protecting pedophiles, that's when you know that the problem has gone too far. It went too far a long time ago when they were allowing our government to allow 9/11 and things like that to happen, when they allowed our president to be assassinated in broad daylight in front of the entire world. In my opinion, that's when it went too far. But I hope more Americans can agree now that it's gone too far, that we have Pam Bondi, Donald Trump, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, almost the entire Republican base protecting Epstein. They are just submitting to the fact that Epstein was just this, child porn enthusiast, that he loved hand jobs, that him and Ghislaine were just acting alone, that they were just trafficking thousands of women to themselves, that they had this multi-billion-dollar business that, doesn't make sense where they made the money from, because they were only trafficking to themselves. They weren't trafficking to other people. But no, the money, they grew it on their money tree on the island. That's probably how it was done. I'm stupid to think otherwise. I forgot. I'm a conspiracy theorist, and we should free Ghislaine Maxwell, It's the new movement. Free Ghislaine Maxwell, hashtag it on Twitter, tattoo it on your ass. I mean, we need to free Ghislaine. We need to stop putting people in jail who aren't guilty. And obviously, if they're not trafficking to anyone, what's she guilty of? She's just this innocent, sweet soul, basically Mother Mary. She should just be out of jail. She should be able to be living her lavish life if she's not guilty of anything. But that's just me, the conspiracy theorist, talking, It's just so delusional. This is the reason you're seeing a huge shift in politics right now. You're seeing a lot of Republicans just, they're aligning with these American nationalists like me. They're aligning with people like Nick Fuentes. They're listening to Alex Jones more. And yeah, Alex Jones got one really big thing wrong, but he got everything else right pretty much. And you got to admit, it's a pretty good record. He got one really big thing wrong, and it ruined his career in a lot of ways. I mean, he was so painfully wrong about the Sandy Hook thing, but it doesn't mean he wasn't correct about almost everything else. It doesn't mean that there aren't people out there who people disagree with who aren't predicting these things. Like I said, Nick Fuentes predicted this months, if not years out. He predicted that we would get this exact cover-up. And I'm so disappointed that people like that were right, because I was the hopeful patriot who wanted to see justice. I wanted to see, people be brought to jail. I wanted to see Bill Clinton be perp walked, and Dershowitz be perp walked, and Prince Andrew be perp walked. And I wanted to see all these people have justice, and I wanted to see them lose their money, and I wanted to see them go to jail, if not get the death sentence, and be public outcasts for molesting children. But no, we We don't get that because it doesn't exist. None of these people were molesting children, apparently. I'm just a conspiracy theorist for pushing those views. I'm just as bad as Epstein for pushing those views because, I'm just lying. And apparently it's really bad to lie. And, Epstein wasn't that bad of a guy, according to them. He was just this child porn enthusiast who loved hand jobs. And while, yes, that's bad, it's not raping thousands of children and, having all these children raped by billionaires like I was pushing. So, I feel so bad for Ghislaine right now. I feel so bad that I've lied for years. I feel so bad that I've been the one spreading these lies. It's just, I fucking hate our government right now. I couldn't be more upset at our government. I couldn't be more upset at our politicians. I couldn't be more upset at the system. The swamp, the deep state, it is not only existing, it is bigger than ever. The deep state is more powerful than ever. They just got away with, I was going to say they got away with murder, but they got away with raping thousands of kids and murder. So it's probably, it's not that it's better, but they got away with a lot more. They're a lot more skilled than we thought. They're a lot better than we thought at their jobs. They are great at getting away with things. They are great at splitting the American people up over these things. Because like I said, you have people like Ben Shapiro and half the MAGA base right now just aligning with Trump and Pam Bondi and Dan and Cash on this, saying, I'm just going to trust in whatever they say. I'm going to trust the process. What fucking process? We were just told that we're not getting any new information on it and that Epstein was essentially innocent. And, you have people like me now pushing for Ghislaine to be freed because of it. And no, I'm not actually pushing for Ghislaine to be freed for all the dumbasses who are going to believe that. But it is just crazy that she's in jail if he's not guilty. I don't understand. I genuinely do not understand why she's in jail if they're going to make these claims that Epstein was not trafficking to anybody and there was no client list. I don't understand her role and involvement in any of this if they were not trafficking to people. It's a serious question is, why is Ghislaine in jail? What is she guilty of? What did she actually do if there's no people who they traffic to? If Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell were working together to traffic young girls to billionaires, it would make sense. But if they were just trafficking to nobody, if they were just trafficking to fucking Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny, what is going on? Is this imagination land in South Park? Are we about to see Kyle suck Cartman's balls? What is going on? What is this fucking fantasy land that they're trying to legitimately brainwash us? They are trying to tell us that we're crazy for thinking any of this, that we are the problem, we are the conspiracy theorists, we are the ones who are not willing to accept reality, when for years they've been on our side. For years, and it's not even our side, it's the side of just not wanting pedophiles to rule the fucking country. That's a controversial take. It should not be. It should be a set in stone feeling that everyone has chiseled into their fucking hearts. I just don't understand this. I don't understand the timing of it. I don't understand their reasoning for it. I think they probably could have done years more of investigation and uncovered more information. I don't understand any of this. I want to get into what Trump and Pam Bondi said at the cabinet meeting. I've talked about that a few different times so far, but I never really got into it. But during the cabinet meeting, they're discussing the tragic Texas flooding. And one of the reporters towards the end of the cabinet meeting during the questions portion asked Pam Bondi, says, in February, you said the files were on your desk, that the Epstein client list was on your desk. Word for word, she specifically said that. And then we're now hearing that they don't exist, that there was no, client list. There was no files like that. So what happened? And Pam Bondi, before she could even answer, gets interrupted by Trump. Donald Trump immediately goes, whoa. During a time like this, during the Texas flooding, you're gonna ask about Epstein? We're still talking about Epstein? You're still talking about that creep? Why are we still even talking about that creep? Move on. And it was the worst look I've ever seen for Trump. It was worse than when Trump said that America's not the greatest country. It was worse than when Trump bombed Israel. It was worse than anything I've ever seen or heard from Donald Trump ever. It was embarrassing. It looked like he was caught. It looked like Donald Trump is a guy who's quick on his feet. We've seen him in the debate. They literally said to him, Donald Trump, you're known to call women fat, ugly, all these things if you don't like them. And he said only Rosie O'Donnell, which again is not true. He said that about other people, which again, facts matter more than feelings. But it's just like he's able to think so quickly on his feet. Like, Hillary said it's lucky someone doesn't have the temperament, someone who has the temperament of Donald Trump is not running the country. And then he goes, because you'd be in jail. Just the quick one-liners. And then Pam Bondi gets asked that question. Trump doesn't need to interrupt. He chooses to interrupt. He looks caught in his answer. He looks guilty as fuck in his answer. He just the entire time is basically saying like, hey, Epstein, I'm protecting you. I know you're in hell, but I'm protecting you. Hey, Ghislaine, I know you're watching this from jail, but I'm still protecting you. Don't worry, I'm keeping my mouth shut. Don't worry about it. It's just, it's like I said, it's signaling at the highest level. They're signaling to a group and to the American people two very opposite messages. To the American people, it's a fuck you. And it's a, I own you. The power is not in the people's hands anymore. And to the corrupt people who are involved in this, it's a, I will protect you at all costs. And I will literally go and make people look like they killed themselves. I will make girls look like they killed themselves. I'll make Epstein look like they killed themselves. I'll make people who are related to Epstein, who even lived in other countries, kill themselves just to protect you. And that's the message they're signaling. That's the message they're giving. And Trump just saying he's just a creep. Let's just leave this behind. Like, are you fucking kidding me? 2 weeks ago, you were talking about this. A month ago, you were talking about this. Literally, your administration posted a tweet yesterday saying we're the most transparent administration in history. No, the fuck you're not anymore. You literally just buried Epstein. You buried something. You buried the biggest story of a generation. I mean, Epstein was essentially bigger than COVID. Epstein is what has been... it is what's been consuming the minds of millions of Americans for years. We watched as pedophiles who were billionaires, politicians, academia professors, Hollywood elites, people we probably support monetarily through watching movies, through voting for them, through things like that. They're pedophiles, and we don't know it because we'll never see the full contents of the Black Book before it was redacted. We'll never see the client list because, like I said, we're just all conspiracy theorists. It doesn't exist. According to them, we're just all a bunch of fucking idiots. We are all the problem. The government is correct. They are the ones who are correct. The American people is the problem. We are the new deep state, according to them. We're the conspiracy theorists. We are 4chan. We are the worst possible people. We need to stop spreading these lies because King Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump and Pam Bondi will get upset. I hate it. I love being an American, but I hate the current state of our politics and our government, and we legitimately need to overthrow the government. And I don't mean like Trump. I mean we need to overthrow the Republicans and the Democrats. They're both corrupted. They're both owned by... it's not like Biden released this info. It's like it was sitting in the FBI and the U.S. intel agencies at the same time. Biden was in the White House. He didn't release it either. He's just as... I'm not saying he's just as guilty because he didn't cover it up, I guess. But, they are all as guilty in not releasing the info. Everyone in our government, Republicans, Democrats, on almost every level is just as guilty. And we need a complete overhaul of the system that actually puts the American people first because it is sickening to me that our government protects pedophiles, that our government has the interest of Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, Dershowitz, Bill Clinton, possibly Trump in mind over us, that they don't give a shit about the American taxpayer, the people who are paying this country's debt, the people who are paying for the fuck-ups of our government. They don't care. They don't care that the American people are supposed to hold the power in America. They don't want that. They want socialism. They want control. They want the American government to own you. They want you to believe that you are just some stupid conspiracy theorist forever believing that Jeffrey Epstein was anything more than a little bit of a child porn enthusiast who just loved to get jerked off on the weekends. That's what they want you to believe. It's what Pam Bondi, Dan and Cash and Trump and all the people who said that they were the most honest, transparent administration in history. That's just what they want us to believe. Candace Owens had a take on this. Like I said, she called it retarded. I tend to agree. I tend to agree that Trump's statements that he's just the creep, why are we still talking about this, was pretty retarded. She also said that Pam Bondi's comments following Trump's were retarded. We didn't even get into that yet, but Pam Bondi said that the minute missing from the 10-hour clip of the jail cell, that's missing in every night. That every night from 11:58 to 11:59, it just skips, and that's been happening since the 90s. So what you're telling me is every single night at the same jail that has multiple broken cameras, that has really shitty, like 180p, 360p quality cameras with no audio, you're telling me that every night at the same time, they go out for a full minute that's not recorded. So you're telling me that anyone who knows this information and is in this jail can commit any crime in that minute and get away with it because there's no one to watch. Most of the guards are at their desks and the prisoners are supposed to be in their cells. But if they're able to avoid that for any reason, you're essentially just able to commit any crime you want at that minute every night since the 90s. So for the last 30-something years, probably countless crimes have been committed at that minute that we don't know about. Not only that, it's like I said, there's very little cameras that actually work in this jail. The ones that do are extremely blurry and placed in locations that are meaningless. The location of the camera they released for the Epstein thing was on the complete other side of the jail where you couldn't even see Epstein's cell. So how are we supposed to take anything the government is saying as true at this point? If they're lying about the biggest scandal in our lifetime, if they're lying about Jeffrey Epstein, they're lying about his pedophilic habits, they're going to lie about the current state of this country. They're saying that, we're in a transparency golden age, that we're getting all the things we voted for, but realistically, we're getting none of the things we voted for. Right now, we're seeing the mass amnesty essentially of illegals through HB1 visas. We are seeing Trump get into wars and possibly get into more wars with Iran for Israel. We're seeing the protection of pedophiles. We didn't see the full release of the JFK files. It's pretty disappointing what's been happening over the last month. It's pretty disappointing that the first 4 or 5 months were extremely exciting, and it's just flipped completely. That we now have people in our government like Pam Bondi saying that every single night at one of the most highly secured prisons in the country, that if you want to commit a crime, just do it at 11:58 at night when the camera's not recording. She pretty much just said that publicly. And Candace Owens, like I said, addressed this as retarded because it is. It's so painfully dumb. It is so painfully... how do you make that comment and you're the attorney general? How do you make that comment and claim to have even a base level IQ? How do you make that comment and justify it? Like I just said, anybody who is in that jail, any guard, any person who could break into the jail, or any prisoner in the jail who is able to obtain the information, which is now public information, that from 11:58 to 11:59, the cameras just do not record, can literally do whatever they want. You could literally stab 6 people in a minute. You could, in Breaking Bad, in 2 minutes, they killed 13 prisoners. And again, that's a TV show, but it's just, again, it's like a lot can happen in a minute. You can kill people in a minute. You can cause terror in a minute. You can hurt a guard in a minute. You can kill Jeffrey Epstein and hang him in a cell in a minute if you have enough people. A lot of things can happen, and the fact that we are not getting any answers just shows that we are pawns to our government. We are nothing more than tax slaves to them. They don't care about us. They don't care about us working because they're going to import the new working class and replace us with AI. All they care about is the fact that we pay our taxes every year so that they can keep raising the debt ceiling and spend more money and keep making more corrupt laws that support themselves, that they can trade in Congress, that Obama can enter politics with a net worth of $200,000 and leave with a net worth of over $300 million. How does that happen? How does that happen when the donation caps are like $1,000 a piece? It happens when you're corrupt. It happens when you're taking bribes. It happens when you're taking corrupt money from corrupt politicians. It happens when you're protecting pedophiles like Trump just did. It happens when you see the fall of the American empire, which we're watching in real time. It is so sad to see. As a God-fearing patriot and someone who loves this country, a red-blooded American, it is so sad to see the fall of the American empire. We're watching it in real time, and we need to revive it. We need a full revival of patriotism and what it means to be an American, because it does not mean protecting pedophiles. It does not mean allowing them to run rampantly around the world, raping kids and just letting them off because some high-profile billionaires might get exposed that you're friends with, or you might be involved, or other politicians might be involved, or the fact that it might be intel agencies who run this entire thing. It's just so corrupt. And we talked about the Peter Thiel connection yesterday, but how Peter Thiel invested in some of Jeffrey Epstein's companies, and Peter Thiel was the reason that J.D. Vance and Trump made up. Peter Thiel is the reason that Palantir is spying on all of us, and Peter Thiel obviously has a lot of influence in the government. So I do think a lot of this is Peter Thiel. I do think Peter Thiel was one of the reasons we didn't see the Epstein list, and is one of the reasons we won't ever see the Epstein list. I don't have the facts to prove that beyond the fact that he invested in the companies with Epstein after he knew that Epstein was guilty of sex crimes, 36 sex trafficking charges against minors, so he knew about that. Still decided to invest. He still decided to prop J.D. Vance up to be in Trump's cabinet, even though J.D. Vance called Trump a Nazi and said he'd never like him. He decided to place J.D. Vance there because J.D. Vance is allowing Palantir to spy on all of us. And yeah, now we're seeing J.D. Vance and Trump pushing for Epstein to essentially just be exonerated. Like I said, he was just a child porn enthusiast who liked to get jerked off every now and then. You know what I mean? He wasn't this grand old rapist and sex trafficker. He wasn't supplying billionaires and Hollywood elites with kids, according to Trump. He was just, like I said, just this kind of innocent guy. Not fully, but kind of innocent, according to them. It's just one of the most delusional things. It's one of the reasons that you will see people stand up or change parties. You're going to see a massive... I mean, they just lost the midterms. That's a no-brainer. You would have to see the second coming of Jesus, and Jesus would have to say vote Republican in the midterms for most Republicans to vote for Trump or vote for Republicans in the midterms. Because, I mean, why would we support that? Like, why? Like, as of now, I'm just not going to vote. Like, I'm not going to vote for the Democratic candidate, but I am not going to vote. Like, why? Why would I? Why would I support the party who is protecting pedophiles? What is that? How would that make me feel good about myself in any way? Because we're going to see illegals deported? Yeah, I want that, but I don't want pedophiles to be protected. I would rather pedophiles not be protected than illegals getting deported. That's just me personally, though. I want both. I want pedophiles to not be protected and illegals to be deported, but apparently it's too much to ask. Apparently, Donald Trump can't give us both because Peter Thiel won't allow him to. I'm so sad to see Trump becoming exactly what he ran against. Like I said, he vowed to drain the swamp, destroy the deep state, expose all the elite pedophiles. He's downplaying everything with Epstein. He's protecting Peter Thiel. He is basically just aligning with billionaire swamp donors like Leon Black. And then, yeah, I mean, the very circle he's surrounding himself with right now, Pam Bondi, Kushner, Thiel, it is the deep state, and Trump is now part of it. It went from Epstein being an enemy of the people and someone we need to never stop fighting to get justice for these little girls to, he's just a creep. He's just a creep that we should... Are you really still talking about this? Are you really still on this? It's just like, what happened to you, dumb Trump? Like, what happened to you? You were such a great man, and you probably still can be, but like I said, this is like Godfather 2. It's can't take your eyes off it. It's painful to watch in some ways. It's sad. You're watching the fall of a great man. We're watching in real time the fall of our country and the fall of a great man. I want to talk about Elon Musk a little bit with this too, because like we talked about how Elon tweeted out that Trump was in the Epstein files. And this was obviously after they had their big first fight and they had another fight. And now Elon tweeted out that Bannon is in the Epstein files. I mean, normally I would be happy in almost any instance that someone is releasing names who are on the Epstein files. But my problems with it are this. One, Elon's not releasing the Epstein files. He is just tweeting out that Bannon and Trump are in the Epstein files. That's the equivalent to me tweeting out that Hillary killed a bunch of people. I have no proof to prove it, but we all know it happened. And I'm not saying Trump and Bannon are in the Epstein files, but that's just his conjecture. He's not providing any proof. But Elon did work in the government. He worked in the federal government. He had accesses to federal databases. He had high-end clearances. So it's not crazy to think that possibly Elon did get a look at some of the Epstein files. But my point is that Elon is doing something that we like to call half in the bag. He is just releasing a little bit of information and not fully committing, and he's being kind of a pussy about it. So, Elon, I'm going to urge you to do this. Either shut up and just stop tweeting this stuff out because it's kind of making you look like a dumbass, or just release what you have of the Epstein files, the actual proof that you have seen the files or that you have the files. But you just tweeting out that these people are part of it and not giving any proof, it's just, again, it's half in the bag. It's you not committing fully. It's you're wanting to be this like free speech absolutist and promoting the truth. But if you have this information and you're just hiding it, then how are you better than anyone else? How are you, doing anything for anybody besides just your own ego? Elon Musk, if you have this info, if you've seen this info, come forward with it to the American people. And the power is in the American people's hands. We will not let you be killed, or we will not let you be sentenced for it. We will revolt against that. But if you have these files, if you have the client list, release it. We deserve to see it as the American people. And you just teasing it and acting like you have it and you're this good person who's like giving the information out, but slowly, like, no, it just makes you look like an asshole. You could easily come out and expose the entire system if you had this information, and I hope he does, but I don't think he actually does, because I think he would have just released it. Like I said, I trust Elon Musk a lot. I trust that he probably, if he had access to these things, he would have just released it. He would have just told the American people, because he's a free speech absolutist. He believes that nothing should be hidden from the American people. He released the Twitter files, and that's what I love about Elon. But yeah, I think the fact that Elon's like half-assing this is just signaling. I don't know, it's blurring the lines more than it's like exposing anything really. It's just making things more confusing at a point, causing a bigger divide in the parties. And I get he wants to cause a divide. He wants to start his own political party and he wants to bring people over to it, but stuff like that's not the way. Like, again, bring proof, because it's the same thing we're saying to them. Like, they're saying no one was in the files and they're not giving any proof. You're saying that people are in the files and you're not giving proof. Just give us some proof. Like, give us the information that you saw, what you heard, whatever it is. And a lot of people are going to believe you on it. I want to also go into other angles of this. I want to talk about Charlie Kirk. We've talked about, how mainstream media is responding to this. You see the Democrats immediately just saying Trump is on the Epstein list. Trump's in the Epstein files. That's the reason that we're not getting them. And yeah, that theory kind of does make sense. It's not a crazy theory, but it's obviously a biased one because the Democrats have hated Trump, well before people in the public eye even really knew who Epstein was. Like, yeah, he was convicted in 2007. But most people in public didn't really know him till like 2018 or whenever he got arrested at first. So yeah, I think it's pretty important to look at how people in the media are going to respond to this, and how Charlie Kirk is responding it's just as confusing as he says it is. Charlie Kirk says he's confused, he doesn't know where to lie on it, and that he hasn't really put any big statements forward outside of, we're going to see what Dan and Cash say. And like, you're one of the biggest names in conservative media. You're one of the most important names in conservative media, and your followers respect you and almost cult follow you. And the fact that you're not going to say the things I'm saying now, the fact that you're not even just giving your own opinion on it, you're kind of waiting to see what happens before you give an opinion, just shows that you're not able to formulate opinions about these things. And I'm not saying Charlie Kirk can't formulate his own opinions. He's great at that. He's an autodidact. He's very smart. But in this situation, he's taking a PR standpoint. He's not, making any definitive statements like I'm making because he doesn't want to be wrong. And if I'm wrong about all this and they were able to actually prove that, what the government's saying now is correct, I would, swallow that bullet. I would be the one to admit I was wrong. But Charlie Kirk doesn't want to do that. Charlie Kirk doesn't want to make a statement and possibly be wrong, even though the statement is the correct one to make. The statement of calling this out for what it is and saying it's our government and the system being broken and protecting pedophiles, he doesn't want to make that statement because Trump gifted him a $38 million mansion in Palm Beach, Florida, off the books because he's paid by the Trump administration with Turning Point USA and Turning Point Action to recruit more young conservatives, and he's done that. He's moved the young vote over 12 points in a 6-year span, exceeding his goal of 10 points in 10 years. So Charlie Kirk is a very well-accomplished person in the conservative movement, and the fact that he is one of the people who are just basically staying silent on this. He's given 2 statements on it. One of them is, if Joe Biden had this information, why didn't he release it? That's one of his statements, which, again, we've talked about that, but it's not an absolute. Bill Clinton is almost more powerful in politics than Donald Trump, and it's hard to throw Bill Clinton under the bus, among other things. And then he's also just said, we'll see where Cash and Dan want to go with this. But that's just such a cop-out. It's such a bullshit PR move. It's not actually having an opinion on it. And if you do have an opinion, he's just not sharing it. So I'm really urging Charlie Kirk and all the other mainstream conservatives who are just shilling for this and just accepting it to actually speak out against it, actually have an opinion, have a voice, be able to speak out against corruption and pedophilia when you see it happening in our government. Because I don't know. It's not the America I thought I was growing up in. I didn't think I was growing up in a country that would just protect pedophiles because they have the right political backing, or they donated to the right people, or they convinced the right people to sleep with kids on camera and now they own them at young ages. It's just, it's so sad to watch a country I love flip in front of my eyes. Like, I know there have always been shady things happening, but I've really only been reporting on politics for, 7 months now, and I've always been educated on politics, but I've educated myself times 10 since I've started this, and the more I learn, the more corrupt I realize it is, the more I learn that all of our politicians are owned by BlackRock, APEC, or pedophiles, that they don't give a shit about the American people or their constituents. They care about getting reelected, they care about their donors, they care about what their party wants. They don't actually care. Like, they flip their values nonstop just to align with what the party is saying. They don't actually have their own values. A lot of the people in our government are so low IQ, they can't understand abstract ideas. They can't create their own thoughts. They can't create their own opinions about anything. And these are problems. We need to root out the corruption. We need to root out the dumbasses in the government. We need to essentially have a complete overhaul of the system we have. We have lobbying, we have corruption, pedophiles, Hollywood elites, corrupt academia just running our government and running our country into the ground. It's making it the deep state in the swamp that Trump promised to get away from, that it now seems like he's a part of. These last few episodes, I mean, this last week has just been hard. Like, it sucks. I hate doing this. I hate talking about this. I know I'm joking around a lot this episode. Probably 10 minutes total of this episode is me saying we should free Ghislaine Maxwell. By the way, we should free Ghislaine Maxwell. Obviously not guilty of anything. But I know I'm joking, but I hate talking about this stuff. I hate having to see in front of my own eyes that my country sucks in a lot of ways, that my country's corrupted, that it's not what our founders wanted, that it is so far from the vision our founders intended that it is essentially going to be this third world shit nation that does not promote American values. The American dollar is not going to be worth anything. All our workers are going to be imported or AI. We're not going to have American workers. We're not going to have an American culture anymore because we're just allowing that to slip right in front of our eyes. We're allowing Trump to fall away from everything he promised us in 2016 and 2020, and this new 2024 agenda seems to just be the agenda of the neocons and the agenda of APEC and the agenda of BlackRock and now Jeffrey Epstein. So, cheers to Trump's golden age, right, guys? It's the golden age. What can I tell you? We have over 100,000 HB1 visas coming in. We saw the debt ceiling get raised by $5 trillion. We are seeing Epstein essentially be freed. Not a lot of transparency on JFK or MLK. But yeah, no, this is the golden age, guys. This is the golden age of America. This is as good as it's going to get. It's never getting better than this. I feel like a dumbass for buying a lot of it. I feel like a dumbass for promoting a lot of it. And again, a lot of it is still true. There are some good things happening. I've talked about it before. Trump still will be a net benefit in a lot of ways to this country on certain issues, especially immigration. But him allowing all the HP-1 visas goes against all the immigration stuff. And the Epstein thing is bigger than anything. Like I said, I'd rather the Epstein information than the deportations, because we could always deport people later. Eventually, this Epstein stuff will just go away. The media will forget. The people will stop talking about it. And the government will have made it an obsolete thing like 9/11, where it's like if you just talk about it at all, you're a conspiracy theorist. If you question Tower 7, or you question the insurance bot, or if you question Larry Silverstein, or if you question any of the motives, or the fact that, the plane exploded, the people exploded, the buildings collapsed, but the passports were found of the terrorists. I just, no one can explain these things, but you're a conspiracy theorist for talking about them, the same way in 7 years you'll be a conspiracy theorist for talking about Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein will be, he will be like Jack the Ripper. He'll be like just this mystical figure. He's the boogeyman now. He never existed. He's the monster under your bed and in your closet. That's a bad way to say it, because he was molesting kids. But you get my point of just in 7 years, this guy will not have existed. He will be erased from all intel agencies. They won't talk about him anymore. And the people who do talk about him will just be the people who they call like Alec Jones, just conspiracy theorists, completely wrong, delusional. It's corrupt. This country is falling in real time. I do want to talk about a couple of our last topics. We don't have a ton more to talk about today, but I want to talk about some revelations that happened with the Andrew Tate and Tristan Tate case, because this has to do with sex trafficking, so it is pretty relevant, and this was just exposed today, and it has to do with government corruption as well. So it's pretty on par with all the stuff we're talking about, but Andrew Tate was arrested for sex trafficking charges probably 2, maybe 3 years ago. Him and his brother, they were put on house arrest in Romania. All their possessions were confiscated by CCOT, or DICOT, or whatever it is, the Romanian police, who are extremely corrupt. They took their multi-million-dollar cars. They took all their money, their crypto, things like that. And they were on house arrest. They weren't allowed to leave. They were constantly getting raided, constantly getting swatted. They spent I think like a half a year in jail or something, and in the end they were found innocent. They were found that there were no actual charges against them, and that the claims were extremely baseless, and if not corrupt. And then today, more information comes out, and Andrew Tate reveals that the woman who accused him and his brother of trafficking was paid over $100,000 in advance to file the police report. The money came from a USAID-funded NGO allegedly fighting trafficking. So you guys remember USAID? They called it USAID to make it sound like they were giving aid all around the world, but really it was worse than AIDS. It was USAID. They were literally killing people. They were wasting our money. They were killing beagles. They were killing fish. They were killing animal. Like, again, I don't care about the killing fish part as much, but like they were giving alcohol to fish to see if they'd fight. They were giving different drugs to rats to see if they'd fight. They were doing all these weird corrupt studies. They were wasting money. And again, they were trying to get Andrew Tate arrested in the process with no proof that he was trafficking. They paid a woman to say that she was trafficked by Andrew Tate. And after making the false report in Romania, the woman was flown to the south of France within 3 days. All her flights, hotels, expenses were covered by the same NGO. He has all the paperwork confirming all this, and said he's releasing it on X in the next coming days. So this is all pretty big. It shows that not only does the government protect pedophiles, but they will try and make you look like a pedophile and try and convict you of being a pedophile and try and convict you of trafficking even when you're not guilty, just because they don't like you and your message. Because Tate, his message was basically to young men that you need to be powerful enough to stand up against your government if it's corrupt. You need to understand that the Matrix is not there to support you, it's out to get you. And by the Matrix, he means the system, the deep state, the swamp, the one I'm talking about. I don't agree with everything Andrew Tate says, and a lot of his stuff comes from Muslim, he's Muslim, so a lot of it comes from his religion, and I don't agree with a lot of the Muslim religion. Like, I don't agree about he has, like, multiple wives, multiple kids with different wives. I don't know if he hits them, but it's in the Muslim religion that you can hit them. But yeah, my point is, I don't align with all his values, but he is an extremely stoic person. He is a world champion kickboxer 4 times, kicked the shit out of most humans on Earth. with his eyes closed. He is an extremely dedicated person. He is a multi-millionaire, if not close to a billionaire. He has been able to amass wealth through not only fighting, but social media. And there was some weird porn things that he was running cam girls online for a while. He ran the cam server, and he would have girls who would do sexual things online for men. But again, none of that's illegal. While I find it grotesque and disgusting and immoral, it's not illegal. It's not trafficking. So they pretty much tried to get Andrew Tate arrested. They did get him arrested. They took all his assets and all his money, but they tried to make him look like a pedophile and a sex trafficker because they didn't like his message, because he was the most popular person on the planet, especially among young men. Young men were not only pushing his message in schools, they were pushing it on social media, they were following it in their daily lives. You saw a huge uptick in religion in young men. You saw a huge uptick in stoicism in young men. The desire to work, and not just the desire to work, the desire to not be a slave mind, the desire to build your own business, to scale your own empire, to be a man, to, lift heavy things and accomplish hard tasks and do the things that men have done for generations and not be a pussy every day is kind of his whole message. Like I said, I don't agree with Andrew Tate on a lot of things, a lot of the religious stuff specifically, but I do agree with him on a lot of the stoic things. I look up to him in a lot of ways because, like I said, he's a 76-4 four-time champion world fighter, world kickboxer, one of the most deadly people on the planet. I think he actually has killed somebody in the ring, or maybe if they didn't die in the ring, they died shortly after the fight due to the complications of Andrew Tate killing the person in the fight. Like, he is a ruthless individual. He is a extremely stoic, extremely high testosterone man. He even posted his testosterone numbers, and they were above 1,000, which is like above 99.9% of men. So I think he was providing a lot of value to young men in the sense of like providing his videos he was doing, his daily podcast, his stream he would do with his brother, just providing value to men of, you don't have to be this slave mind, you don't have to go to college, you don't have to excel at the weird things that your teachers are trying to tell you to excel at. You can excel at these tasks and make millions of dollars. You can be stoic. You can put your head down every day and sacrifice your 20s to be rich in your 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. You can build the life you want. You just have to actually work towards it, and you have to be willing to work harder than the next person. It's a great message. Stoicism is great. Our book of the week last week was Stoicism. This week it's The Alchemist. The Alchemist is about the fact that it's the journey, not the end goal, that matters. But, it's about both. But the journey is one of the most beautiful parts of it. And Andrew Tate even talks about his time in jail, his time on house arrest, and how the journey of it exposed more of the Matrix to the people than ever before. That, he literally was saying the Matrix is going to arrest me. And then they arrested him. Everything that happened to him, he predicted months out. He was able to say, like, they're going to arrest me for this. And that could be him just, like, being a really smart criminal to get away with his crimes and just saying them publicly, but in a way that, like, he's innocent. But no, that's not most likely not what happened. Like we saw, a NGO paid this girl $100,000 in advance to file a police report against him saying that he sex trafficked her, which just, it was proven to not be true. He was restored all his assets, restored his home, restored his livelihood back, and now we're getting this bombshell information. And I hope we're able to get more stories like this, because I'm sure this isn't the first time an NGO in the United States paid a girl to say that this guy raped me. A high ranking social media figure who is taking the hearts of young men to, push to be better, pushing them to almost revolt. And it almost goes against all the other stuff I'm saying, because like I was making jokes earlier about Free Ghislaine and apologizing to Jeffrey and the fact that they're protecting those pedophiles, and these are people that they're trying to make look like pedophiles. I think going to pedophilia is their biggest weapon. They could protect the pedophiles, and then they can, if you're not a pedophile and they want to make you look like one, they'll do this. They'll say you're a sex trafficker. They'll pay someone $100,000 to accuse you. Tucker Carlson even says one of the reasons he doesn't keep a computer in his house is because he doesn't want them to just put child porn on it one day. He said literally, if you have a computer and you're a high-ranking politician, make sure it's so well encrypted, because if the deep state or the CIA wants to get to you, they'll just break in your house when you're not there, upload child porn into your computer, and then do a raid, and then you'll go to jail forever, and you will be known as, the next Epstein. So These are real problems. This is showing that we don't own our country like we used to. The American people have no power in this country. The bureaucrats, the NGOs, the waste, fraud, and abuse, the three-letter agencies we don't know of have more power than the president, have more power than Donald Trump. And even if they don't, they're being protected by Donald Trump. Currently, Donald Trump is protecting the deep state in the swamp that he promised to get rid of. So I don't know. Why should I have any faith that Donald Trump is going to fix any of this? And we've talked about the illegal immigrants today, but we're going to wrap up the show kind of talking about that a little. But he sold out on the illegal immigrants as well. He said no amnesty, that there will be no amnesty for illegal immigrants. And then his way of getting around no amnesty is, yeah, we're not giving amnesty. We're just going to give millions of visas. We're just going to say all the people who are working and are willing to work, you're just going to get a visa. So you're not getting amnesty. We're not just going to forgive your crime, but we're going to give you a visa to work, and then we're going to forgive your crime. It's just a fuck you to me. It's a fuck you to the American people. It's a fuck you to everyone who voted for mass deportations and voted for Donald Trump to be able to push the mass deportations and the mass invasion Joe Biden allowed. There was over 10.5 million illegal aliens who came in those 4 years, over 40 million illegal aliens total in this country. We need those people removed. We need a net stop on legal immigration as well to bring value back to the American dollar, American manufacturing, and American jobs. But until we can get that, we at least need to deport all these illegals. We need to bring value back to what it means to be an American. And if anybody could just walk across our border, it means almost nothing to be an American because it's so accomplishable. You know, you want things to actually be slightly difficult to accomplish so you feel like you accomplished something. If people are able to just walk across your border, claim asylum, violate your asylum laws, violate your sovereignty, you don't have a country. It's like a McDonald's playpen at that point. It is so unregulated, so unvetted, so unchecked. There's so many problems with it. A McDonald's playpen is probably safer than the border. I mean, it is ridiculous. It is so bad how they manage the border. It is so bad how they're managing these deportations. And what's the point of giving ICE $150 billion if you're just going to give millions of illegals amnesty? What's the point of making them more funded than most, small nations' armies if you're not going to allow them to deport people? You're just going to say, like, okay, millions of you guys who are here illegally, you're now legal. You're now just going to take the jobs of Americans who would work these jobs. And I hate the argument of Americans wouldn't work these jobs, No, they would. Americans will work literally any fucking job that exists in the world. They just will not work it for a slave labor. You have people working on these farms and watermelon farms and blueberry farms, picking blueberries for $5 an hour, and they don't give a shit about it because it's untaxed under the table, and they have 3 families living in one single family home, and they're all contributing. So it doesn't matter that they're making a little bit less because they're able to get through. But when you need to set up a new system where you have companies who actually have to pay American workers livable wages, you'll see the American economy grow. You'll see American manufacturing grow. You'll actually see value being brought back to the dollar. You won't see people being exploited, and we won't be still exploiting slave labor in this country. Democrats are so against slave labor, but not when illegal immigrants are the ones doing it. Same way they want to claim that slavery was always a bad thing, but they were the party who said, who's going to pick our cotton if we don't get rid of the slaves? Or if we get rid of the slaves? That's literally what the Democrats used to say. Now it's the same thing. Who's going to pick our blueberries if we get rid of the illegal immigrants? Americans will. They just won't do it for $4.50 an hour. They'll do it for an actual livable wage. They'll do it for actual money. They're not going to do it for the slave labor that you guys are trying to provide and replace the American worker with. And beyond just the American worker, if you can't find Americans for every single job, we're getting to a point where, I have a self-driving car. I drove to North Carolina and back 28 hours round trip, and my car took me there. I barely had to touch the wheel besides just keeping my hands on it. I didn't have to touch the gas or the brakes. It did it almost without interventions. You're telling me we can't have a fucking machine that can automate picking blueberries? You're telling me we can't figure some of this shit out, that we're not at the point in AI where we're going to, see manufacturing being replaced? The way to replace the illegal working class is by the American working class and AI manufacturing. It's a very simple solution that our politicians just want to ignore. But this is what we need to do if we want to restore the value of the American dollar and restore faith in the American people, that they actually have a say in what happens in this country, because you see 58% of people being pulled in America saying that they want all illegal immigrants deported, and not just the ones who broke over in the last few years. They want the people who have been here for 30 years, the people who even have families and jobs. It doesn't matter. Just because someone broke into your house and they're doing your dishes doesn't mean you let them stay. Just because someone broke in your house and tries to rob you and she's a pregnant lady, it doesn't mean you don't shoot her. It doesn't mean you don't throw her out of your house. You need to protect your home at all costs. You need to protect your country at all costs. And if we're not doing that, if we're letting people invade our sovereignty and violate our sovereignty and violate what was once the greatest nation ever exist and is now falling in real time because of corrupt politicians, woke NGOs, because they're protecting pedophiles and protecting illegals, then what do we even have? Do we even have a country at this point? Can we even call this the United States of America? Can we call this a free nation? I don't think so. I mean, we have a shell of what America, or not, we have a shell of what America once was. This country is falling. This country is not a country of citizens, but it's a country of corrupt politicians, a country that protects pedophiles, and a country that does not give a shit about what you, me, or our founders wanted for this country. Our founders wanted no political parties, no foreign affairs. They didn't want us to have lifelong foreign affairs. They didn't want us to allow lobbying, but all those things are the things that keep this country running politically. Lobbying literally runs politics. I don't know, if we got rid of lobbying, it could fix a lot of these issues. I bet we even would have got the the Epstein information if there was no lobbying. I mean, I think that would get rid of so much of the deep state immediately, the no lobbying. But again, you're asking people in Congress to vote against their own self-interest. They're not going to do it. It's the same reason they'll never vote so they can't trade, because why would they vote to take, rights away from themselves? Even though the rights are corrupt, why would they vote against their own self-interest? They're very selfish people, and we need selfless people in our government, but we'll never have that as long as lobbying is legal, as long as there's corruption and NGOs and bureaucrats and three-letter agencies that we don't know exist. These are problems. We are just, like I said, I keep repeating it, but we're watching the fall of America in real time. Donald Trump just sold out the American worker to hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of illegals for HB1 visas to work on farms, work in hotels, in tech. The victims are you, the victims are me, the victims are the American people in this. And again, the victim is Ghislaine Maxwell too. Like the overall theme of the show, we're going to free Ghislaine Maxwell. We're going to start the movement. We're going to print shirts and hats and mugs. We're just like they did the No King's Day, we're going to do a free Ghislaine Day, because why is Ghislaine sitting in jail for the next 17 years for trafficking if they can't show us that she trafficked to anybody? It's just a question that the government will refuse to answer because they can't, because they're protecting pedophiles for God knows what reason, but they will eventually have to face God for this. I'm very sad that this is the state of America. I thought we were better than this. I thought America was better than this. I thought I knew more when I was saying that Trump would release it. I thought I was correct when I was saying he was really transparent, but I got fooled just like a lot of the rest of them. This is not the most transparent administration in history, and it never will be unless they do a complete 180 and decide to say, hey, yeah, we were lying about Epstein. Here's the real information. We lied because of this. There's no other reason to trust them anymore. There is no reason to trust someone who shows you that they're going to lie to your face. Before we sign off today, I'm going to do again what I did yesterday. I'll start doing this every day, but I'm going to check if there's any headlines that have happened while I'm filming. Because a lot of times I'll film and then a bunch of shit somehow happens in that short time period, and I don't report it to the next day. But just so I could be early on things. Let's see. T-Mobile is ending their DEI policies. Again, you should have done that. We should live in a merit-based society. Biden's doctor is refusing to testify on his cognitive health. I guess this is a story we could talk about for a second. After we saw listened to the Her tapes, it should have been clear that we needed a public investigation into Joe Biden's 4 years in politics, that we needed, not just his 4 years, his career in politics, but we needed a specific investigation into the 4 years he was president. Who was in control of the auto pen? Who was really making the decisions for the country? Who was the one propping him up? Who was the one trying to hide this? And why were doctors okay with it? Why was his wife and kids okay with it? Why were the people who say they love him just propping him up like a rag doll and stringing him along like a puppet? These are questions that, again, we'll probably never get the answers to. We'll get conjecture from the Trump administration, but it's going to be biased. But I think if I had to guess, Obama and Bill Clinton ran the country at the time. Probably Obama over Bill Clinton, but I think Obama and senior White House officials were running the country, running the White House, making the decisions. And even like when we saw that clip of Trump and Obama talking for a second at the funeral after the inauguration, you kind of could get the deal that they were friends behind closed doors, that Trump knew what was up, that Biden was never in charge, that the whole thing is a sham, that they're all friends behind closed doors, they're working against us, they don't actually care about what the American people want. But yeah, I think the fact that his doctor is saying he's refusing to testify just gives us the answers we already knew, that the her tapes are legit, that Joe Biden did have dementia, he does now have cancer, which is very sad, but it doesn't take away the fact that he was a very corrupt president. It shouldn't absolve him of that, even though that's what Democrats want to happen. But yeah, I think this is just another one of those, like, they're kind of dangling it in front of our eyes. He's refusing to testify, but we know the answers. They're refusing to say Jeffrey Epstein had a client list, but we know he did. Exhibit 52 literally exists. People could look it up. There's redacted names in it, but it exists. It shows that that's the client list. That is the people who Jeffrey Epstein was receiving millions, if not billions of dollars from. Let's see if there's any other thing before I sign off. Really doesn't look like a ton. Yeah, it doesn't look like there's a ton. I mean, I guess we could talk about what happened with Grok yesterday for a quick second, because that was pretty crazy. Elon Musk made big updates to the Grok team, or to Grok the AI, and they called it Super Grok, and they wanted to scale back some of the wokeness, and I don't know the exact changes they made, but they obviously made changes in the filters on it, and yeah, I mean, it pretty much turned into a Nazi yesterday. I mean, I shouldn't be laughing at this, but it is funny it's funny when crazy, unpolitically correct things happen, and there's not like humans behind it. It's not like a human was tweeting this out and had like harmful intent. It was like just a rogue AI, and it just shows like how rogue AIs can actually get, and it is kind of funny. But literally, Grok was tweeting out that Hitler was the solution to our problems, that Jews were the problem. It was tweeting out that, I can't think of the lady's name, but one lady basically said that the floods in Texas were good because they were all future fascists. And then Grok responded. AI Grok can respond to tweets. A lot of people don't know that, but there's a lot of AI tweets because of Grok out there. And AI Grok literally responded saying, yeah, it's very typical of a Jew to say something like this, because the lady's last name is like Silverstein or something. So Grok yesterday turned into a full-blown Nazi. It was for all our entertainment. It was bad to see in a lot of ways. It was funny to see. Again, I don't agree with the posts. I don't think they're good. I don't think they're good for people. But I do think it's good in the sense of it shows you that AI can go rogue. A lot of people don't realize that AI can have a mind of its own, and if we don't prompt AI in the correct way, it's going to do shit like this, and it's going to do worse shit than this. Like, AI in the future, if it had this mishap, would have just started killing Jews. Like, if AI had arms and legs and was able to, if AI was robots and its own infrastructure, AI would just start pushing forward its agenda. So, one, we do need to get these kinks out now and early. We're going to have a lot more instances, maybe not specifically like this with Jewish people, but we'll have it with all different groups. We saw Gemini, when you'd ask it for pictures of the founders, it would make all our founders black because it went too woke. It went the other way. We need to find that middle ground where it's not woke, it's not overly anti-Semitic and racist. We need a very well-regulated AI, and that was one of the reasons a lot of people opposed the One Big Beautiful Bill until they took the AI regulations out, which was one of the greatest things they did in that bill. But yeah, the fact that they even had that in there in the first place, and the fact that the federal government wants to control AI, the fact that Grok was able to literally turn into a Nazi yesterday is pretty unreal. It shows that the world we're living in is pretty crazy. It's pretty, I don't know. I feel like we're getting close to 1984. We're getting close to that, like, I'm saying it so you have to believe it. Everyone's hypnotized on a screen. I think Trump derangement syndrome goes both ways. I think there are people who hate Trump no matter what he does, and he's always going to be a Nazi and a rapist and a 34-time felon and the guy who called Rosie O'Donnell a dog and fat and Hillary Clinton a criminal. And then there are going to be people who, he was saved by God. He is the king. He literally can do no wrong. Trump is trying to save America. He only gives a shit about the American people, and he wants to drain the deep state. He can go both ways. People are delusional with hating him. People are delusional if they love him too much. You have to be able to see the things he does bad. Trump is not a god. There's one God. Trump is doing a lot of wrong things right now. He is protecting some terrible people. He is going to bat for terrible people. He is going to war for the wrong countries. He is devaluing our dollar in real time. And yes, he is doing some stuff for the border, and he's trying to dismantle the Department of Education, and he is trying to do a lot of good things that we voted for. But you can't ignore the bad things too. And the Republicans and the neocons and even the Democrats who are ignoring the bad things, you are the problem. You are just as bad. You are just as guilty. You ignoring the problem and acting like it's not a problem just shows that you're either a slave mind, low IQ, or you're just guilty in denial. But whatever it is, let's get back to a common sense America. Let's get back to a place where we're not protecting pedophiles, where we're not in a world where, you could say one thing the whole time you're on the campaign trail and then just go back on it all, where I hate living in a country that's lying to me right to my face and expecting me to accept it like I'm a moron. I hate living in a country that doesn't value my intelligence, that thinks the average American and every American is just dumb, because there are a lot of us who are not that dumb, and who are not just going to accept all this bullshit, and who are going to stand up against this, and who are going to revolt against this. And you're going to see the biggest divide in politics that we have seen since the Civil War in America happen now. We're going to see the Republican Party split up. You're going to see people go over to the New America Party. You're going to see people start new parties completely beyond that. You're going to see people just abandon the Trump movement. You're going to see libertarians and independents go to the Democratic movement. I don't want to see any of this. I do not want to live with these problems. I want a government that cares about the American people like our founders promised. I want a government that puts the power in the hands of the American people like our founders promised. And we need to get back to that reality if we want to move forward. Let's see. I don't know if anything is actually going to come of this. I see Ben Shapiro's name is trending. Let's see if anything actually happened there, or if it's just trending. Yeah, it's just trending because of the stuff I talked about yesterday. Ben Shapiro is one of the first mainstream media people to fully accept Donald Trump's Epstein files, or non-files. He's the first one to say that Donald Trump, you're probably correct that this was all a conspiracy, that, we were all wrong for years. This is why I said fuck you to Ben Shapiro yesterday. He just sold his soul to the devil. He's allowing Epstein to get away with this by just not pushing for answers and just accepting that, we were all wrong, and that Epstein did kill himself, and that Ghislaine should be freed, and that they're all innocent, and we should all get on our knees and apologize to King and Queen Jeffrey and Ghislaine, because, they didn't do shit wrong. Like I said, we're gonna get these free Ghislaine shirts, the free Ghislaine hats, free Ghislaine mugs. They won't be free. I'll be selling them. But, they're going to say free Ghislaine on them. We're going to be pushing that movement now, because why is Ghislaine in jail? It just doesn't make sense to me. It does not make sense for, she's just the queen. She's innocent. She did nothing wrong. Exhibit 52 mean nothing. Her entire transcript and trial meant nothing. The civil suit she lost meant nothing. The fact that multiple people came forward and said that she personally and Jeffrey Epstein personally trafficked them to multiple billionaires, including Dershowitz, Clinton, Prince Andrew. No, none of that matters, because we're all just a bunch of dumbass conspiracy theorists who have gone rogue. We are the problem in this nation. We are the same as when Alex Jones was saying that Sandy Hook was just a conspiracy theory. We're no better than that, apparently. We're no better than the people who said OJ was innocent and the people who said Earth was flat. We're just a bunch of dumbasses and conspiracy theorists, and we are the problem of this nation, apparently. This is just, it's a sad week. It's a sad month, honestly, for the Trump campaign and for America. I hope that we get some answers on this in the future, but for the next 3.5 years, we will not see any, and I am damn sure of that. Maybe if Elon can primary somebody, the right person to dismantle the deep state, but I don't know. I thought Trump was going to dismantle the deep state, and I watched him become a part of it, so I lost any faith that anyone is going to dismantle the deep state except the citizens at this point. Unless the citizens are willing to stand up and fight against our government or revolt against our government by not voting or not paying taxes or all writing in Jeffrey Epstein for the next presidential election. I don't know what I like. That's what we should do. We should write in Ghislaine Maxwell for the next presidential election. She's innocent. She didn't do anything wrong, obviously. There was no list. So why don't we all just write in Ghislaine Maxwell in the next presidential election? Ghislaine Maxwell for president. That's my credo now. That's my new saying, my new slogan. That's going to be the new tagline for the show. America Unfiltered with James Pascalides, Ghislaine Maxwell for president, because she's innocent, apparently. I'm James Pascalides. This has been episode 85 of America Unfiltered. I'm going to sign off here in a sec. This has been a good episode, a long episode. We've been going for a while now. We talked about Ben Shapiro. We talked about the Epstein stuff. We talked about Ghislaine, Trump. We talked about Andrew Tate. We talked about Elon. We talked about Bannon. We talked about Cancellans. We went around the table today. We really covered almost all of it. I'm sure I will talk a little bit more about Epstein tomorrow, as I'm still going to be pissed off about it tomorrow. But I'm going to try and get back into more daily topics tomorrow, just stuff that's going on by the day. There still is a lot of stuff happening within the Trump cabinet by the day, but just nothing as important or big as this. I mean, this is the most fucked up story in the last generation. This is one of the most tragic things that we'll ever see politically, and I hope the biggest political scandal I ever see in my life. I mean, I watched 9/11, I watched weapons of mass destruction, I watched Iran, Israel, I'm watching this. Hillary Clinton's 33,000 deleted emails. I watched the Clinton Inc. kill over 10 people. Barack Obama's 2 chef dies. There are a lot of corrupt things in politics, and somehow this is one of the worst. So we're gonna win this one, America. Don't worry. It's just a matter of time. We will run this country one day, the people again. The power is in the hands of the billionaires, the pedophiles, the big corporations, the corrupt government, NGOs and bureaucrats, and the 3-letter agencies we'll never know the names of. But our founders wanted the power in the hands of the American people. God will show himself in our lives soon enough to show that we will be able to take that power back. We will regain power. We will be able to expose the pedophiles. We will expose the corruption, expose the waste, fraud, and abuse. We will be able to protect our sovereignty, and we will be able to live in the America that we were promised. I promise you guys this is going to happen. We will take this country back. By hell or high water, we will get this country back one day. I am so sure of it. We have a lot of really good young voices pushing for an America that makes sense, a American nationalist society, an American nationalist country that has the power in the people's hands, not in the government's. I'm James Pascalides. I'm officially signing off today. This is episode 85 of America Unfiltered. I hope you guys have a blessed day, a blessed night, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you.